In this quiet, unassuming suburb in the west of London were conjured up some of the most individual and funny films ever made.
We play the game for the sake of the game. Other nations play the game for the sake of winning it.
We're dying!
You didn't do bit of it. Young men!
Do you mind?
What I find very pleasant is that when I see the old films, and I'm very objective about them, but they are good, and they've lasted.
Right a bit, right a bit.
One went to work in the morning happily, you know, because you would like the people that you're working for, you'd like the script, you'd like your director, you'd like the food.
Ealing was a very special place. It wasn't a studio which people rented out and came in and left and so on. Ealing was a home.
Movies are sly and dry. I hate that they rhyme, but they are. They're very sly and they're very dry. It's wit of an extremely refined, stylized level.
The whole idea of Ealing Studios is rebellion, revolution of some sort, but very quiet, very gentle.
Your mother married an Italian organ grinder.
Ealing, I mean, we all have our roots in Ealing. I think there's no way you can escape it.
The story of Ealing spans 100 years and 5 distinct eras. There were spells under Basil Dean, Sir Michael Balcon and the BBC. But it all began when Will Barker, a pioneer in film production, bought the West Lodge on Ealing Green in 1902. His first blockbuster was 60 Years a Queen, celebrating the life of Queen Victoria. The next milestone in the Ealing story came in 1928 when Basil Dean headed up a new partnership. Associated Talking Pictures invested heavily in 3 studios specially equipped to make films with sound. They were the first purpose-built talkie studios in Britain.
I think not, sir.
Is this a tablespoonful?
Yes, sir.
You sure?
Quite, sir.
I envy you your confidence.
Thank you, sir.
Dean's films did not do well at the box office. With heavy loans to repay and the growing impact of the Depression, Ealing Studios were brought to the edge of bankruptcy. But then, a young lady from Rochdale strode out before the cameras. Gracie Fields saved Ealing Studios. The success of her films kept the studios alive and enabled Dean to scour the country for more talent. He found performers like Stanley Holloway.
Hey, that were a good blowout, missus.
Now you give me a blowout on those instruments of yours.
Claude Hulbert, the upper-class English twit.
Hello? Yes. Yes. Which department do you want, sir? Hold the line, I'll see if he's in.
And a toothy young man with a taste for speed, George Formby. They were all to become stalwarts of the Ealing repertory. Then in 1938 came a historic moment for Ealing Studios. A new man took over. His arrival was to open the gates to a golden era. Michael Balcon, the son of immigrant parents, was already an experienced producer. He had discovered Hitchcock in the 1920s, and he was to turn Ealing Studios into a powerhouse for the production of films that were uniquely British.
Hello there. By Jove, that was a party you gave the other evening. Wish we'd give a few like it to the embassy, what?
Your Excellency is very kind.
Done a lot for our prestige out here. Worth a battleship. Jolly good show. Well done.
In 1922, Balcon had set up Gainsborough Studios, producing major successes like The 39 Steps. In 1936, he had become head of MGM British, but he found working for a big American corporation and Louis B. Mayer a miserable experience.
I remember him.
What's that?
This is a cover for my disguises. I'll show you. King of Norway. The other way.
And I always thought you were a keen musician.
Well, I am.
An early success for Balcon, still in the Dean mould, was Trouble Brewing.
I can read the future and tell if fate's unkind. The stars I've read, I'll look ahead, and this is what I find.
Germany calling. Germany calling. Germany calling.
When war broke out, Balkan believed British cinema had a vital role to play. He brought in an actor he had nurtured at Gainsborough, Will Hay. Hay's films gave British audiences something to laugh at in the dark days of the Blitz.
Cutting off of an overshoot.
Hey, if I can do this job, I'll do it my own time. We've got to go any lower.
San Dimitrio, London, was based on a true story of a badly damaged tanker, which the crew decides to reboard and sail on to the Clyde. The script was unusual because it used first-hand accounts from the sailors involved.
The sort of movies that Mickey made at Ealing suddenly took on a reality and an ability to which the audience could associate themselves as reality. They changed the style of British cinema.
When I was invalided out, that what I could do, and if I could manage it, was to put the boys up there as they really were, with no false heroics, and there's a lot of nonsense talked about the stiff upper lip. I mean, they suffered like hell, and they were scared to death, but didn't show it.
Right of it, right of it.
Dead of Night was the first Ealing film after the war. It is a compendium of horror stories, and it gave Balkan the chance to bring on some young directors.
Dead of Night was the groundbreaking film of the, quote, supernatural horror. And you had, of course, the famous episode directed by Cavalcanti.
I knew you wouldn't leave me, Hugo. I knew you'd come back.
Not for long, my boy. Not for long. You're going to stop in jail for years and years and years and years.
But the one by Robert Hamm is probably the most powerful, I think, the one with the mirror, where this character sees events acted out in the mirror in the future. And it's very interesting. There's a dark side there in Ealing, too.
The creative team was at the heart of Balkan's vision. All the staff were on salary. It gave them security and a sense that talent would be rewarded because all the promotions were made from within. Every month, Balkan held a meeting in the senior dining room for his top creative people. This was the famous Ealing Round Table. Ideas were discussed and problems shared. Discussions continued across the road in the Red Lion pub.
Here is a late item of news which has just come in. Urgent. All boys wanting a big adventure go immediately to Ballard's Wharf, Shadwell.
Make it snappy.
It was the comedies that would make Ealing films famous throughout the world. The first Ealing comedy, Hue and Cry, was shot a few months after the war ended. It was a comedy thriller about some boys who uncover a criminal gang.
I think the idea that excited me most of all was the idea for Passport to Pimlico.
Are you implying that this treasure does not belong to the Crown?
No, no. It belongs to the people in the area covered by the old estate. Since this charter specifically makes them natives of Burgundy.
Do you mean that these Londoners are technically Burgundians?
Indubitably.
Another crime comedy, but in a different style altogether, was Kind Hearts and Coronets. It became one of Ealing's most celebrated films, and it tells the story of a gentleman serial killer.
Kind Hearts and Coronets is one of my favorite films, and I love it because of its style and its wit and its elegance and just how outrageous it is. It is dealing with...
After a brilliant innings, time eventually ran out for Balkan's Ealing. Cinema audiences had begun to dwindle, and it was fitting perhaps that the new medium of television should take over. In 1956, the BBC made the studios the heart of film production for television.